Welcome, I'm Ara Tapuzian, and this is Michigan Creates, where we explore the vibrant world of creativity and artistry in the heart of Michigan. Today, we're thrilled to have a special guest, Colton Weatherston, a phenomenal guitarist known for his unique blend of classical and jazz influences. Join us as we dive into Colton's musical journey, from his early days from learning guitar to his experiences with legendary musicians like Marcus Belgrave. Discover how Colton's diverse background in music and advertising has shaped his approach to composition and performance. Whether you're a casual listener or a deep music enthusiast, this episode promises to soothe your soul and ignite your passion for music. So sit back, relax, and let the stylings of Colton Weatherston take you on a melodic journey. That's a special treat. If you haven't guessed, Colton Weatherston is with us, and he's playing guitar. He sounds phenomenal, as he always does. Colton, thank you for being with me today on Michigan Creates. This is going to be so much fun and very unique because we haven't done this like this before. So you're in a beautiful studio and you sound perfect. Thank you for doing this today.
Thank you, Ara. It's great to see you.
Let's talk about your background as an artist. Give us sort of the kind of a quick rundown, because you've got a bit of an interesting background as far as playing music, because I don't think you studied initially formally. Am I correct?
Well, I started taking classical guitar lessons when I was in high school.
Okay.
Maybe actually in middle school.
Right.
And I learned how to read music with my guitar teacher. And so I had some formal training there and a lot of technique and repertoire. But then I've gone off in several different directions over the years, and I've learned a lot of different styles of music. So sometimes it's a little hard to pin me down on one particular style.
So why were you interested in playing guitar? What made you gravitate to that instrument?
Well, I should say my father taught me my very first lessons, and he's a great song leader, like a lot of folk songs and songs from the 60s. So there's always been a lot of like family sing-alongs at holidays and birthday parties and things like that. So I would always watch him play the chords, and that's really how I learned how to strum and lead in singing. And then I got the more formal training with classical guitar lessons when I was, like I said, middle school and high school years. And then I've had some jazz teachers as well over the years. But I should note my first teacher was Michael Stockdale at the Institute of Music and Dance, which was a classical music school downtown in Detroit. And he introduced me to my first jazz teacher, who was Marcus Belgrave. Mr. Belgrave was leading youth jazz ensembles at the Institute for Music and Dance. And my classical teacher, Mr. Stockdale, knew that I was interested in jazz, so he introduced me to Marcus, and I got to take part in those workshops that Marcus was hosting.
Very unique to have a classical guitarist teacher do something like that, and especially with such a legendary Detroit renowned musician like Marcus Belgrave. What's something that Mr. Stockdale taught you musically or otherwise that shows up in your playing today?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say the finger style technique, and then sort of like a sensitivity to the melody and learning the fingerings and the tempo and paying attention to the composer's intentions, and then also how to get your own interpretation from a piece of music. Those are some examples of Mr. Stockdale's influence.
Did you learn since you were playing guitar and you're playing classical music, and classical music, as we've talked offline, is very structured. Jazz, other forms of music, world music, even music that I play, is not structured. Did did you learn from, if Marcus was your first doorway into jazz, was that your first moment of, boy, I could be creative in how I play the guitar?
That it definitely gave me a feeling of opening up a creative door.
Yeah.
And the key to it that Marcus showed me right from day one was to learn to trust your ears and learn to take the melody off of the page and put it into the room, put it into the way you interact with the other musicians. He would say that often. He would say, take the melody off of the page and bring it into life. So that's a good takeaway from Marcus. He also used to say that the drums are the mother of the band.
Okay. Wow.
And that was kind of philosophical, but I think what he meant was to allow yourself to feel the rhythm of the music and to be in sync with the drummer.
Okay.
And to let it flow from the drums.
So let's talk about your background, though, and you've done a wide breadth of styles, but musically you've done quite a bit. So you're a songwriter.
Yeah.
And you did some work. You spent some time in the advertising arena.
I did, yeah.
So how was that?
Well, it's very interesting. The good thing about the guitar is guitar touches a lot of different styles, going back hundreds of years, and then all the way to the present day. Using the guitar as a gateway into learning different music styles has been very helpful to me. And then jazz is a little bit like that, too, because when you have a foundation in jazz, it touches the blues, it touches rock and roll, it touches modern styles like hip-hop and techno, and up to the current day. So the guitar and the voice has always been a point of entry for me. And the interesting thing about advertising is that advertising will often give composers and songwriters a creative brief where they ask you to recreate a given style of music. And sometimes we don't know anything about that style of music that we've been given. And then we have like a day or 2 days to make a demo recording in that style, and it's expected to sound authentic. So it's kind of like
it's a puzzle of sorts.
It's a puzzle.
Yeah,
you have to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and you have to just jump in there and have some confidence that to be able to take apart a genre of music and find the essential elements and then recombine them in a unique way that also fits the dramatic or narrative structure of the advertisement. Oftentimes it will have a character arc or a story arc. So there'll be a beginning and a middle and an end. And that's another aspect of the music where if you can draw on some classical training or a little bit of jazz training, you can analyze a melody and work with it, and you can use the form of the music to create a form or a structure for an advertising spot. So, I think all of these things kind of work together and are helpful.
Right. It was good training for you. Do you think that it helped shape you as a composer a bit, knowing that, in ad agency music, you're creating?
Yes.
That training had to have manifested itself into yourself as being a composer as well, right?
I think so. I think I learned a lot about so many different styles of music that I would just put something into my memory banks and then store it for later. And then I was able to draw from it. And there's certain kinds of music that were really popular for a few years. I remember, and this is just after the Super Bowl, and Ricky Martin was on the screen. So I remember when he was popular the first time around. And a lot of the creative directors at advertising agencies, they wanted to put Latin music on a lot of commercials because that was really popular. And guitar is right in the mix with Latin music. So I spent a lot of time learning Latin rhythms and different ways of strumming the guitar to fit into that kind of creative style. And I could give a lot of different examples of things that came into popular music, and then they came in by way of popular music, they made their way into advertising music. Usually a couple years later down the road, a creative director would say, hey, let's do something in the style of a certain artist. and then off we go. We have to make a believable version as if it was a master recording by one of these famous artists. So advertising it's a little bit like doing commercial art. You have to paint within the boundaries of the creative brief, but often you get challenged to make styles of music that you might not have done without that actual creative brief.
Yeah. So it definitely was helpful for you as you were becoming a composer. Definitely. Let's talk about some of your compositions. How does one compose music? It seems like a very simplistic question, but it is such a difficult answer, I think. But what is your style, and how do you approach pieces as you're looking to compose?
Well, very often I will start at the guitar, and you can have a melody. So you could just start off with a couple of notes and play them again, and then add a little variation, and then go somewhere else. And then go back where you started. So something that's as simple like that,
Make it so easy.
Taking the notes from the scale, know, and then I like to think, what chords would fit with that, and then you could just keep going. That might be a place to start.
It's fantastic. You make it sound so simplistic that it's a matter of just hitting a couple of notes and repeating it. But we know there's much more that is involved with that. But
well, then you could, then you might go inward and say, well, what kind of mood am I feeling right now, and how can I express that musically somehow? So it might be like, like you could then the color of the guitar might help. So, you could do something dramatic with a different, like a sea breeze blowing over the coast, something like that. Something like that.
Are you always composing?
No. Yeah, a lot of the time I am.
I mean, is it a good way to relax? I mean, as far as learning a piece of music versus composing your own and just sitting there, it's almost meditating of sorts. I mean, as I'm listening to you, watching you, I'm forgetting that I need to ask you questions because it's so comforting.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I do think that the guitar can be very soothing.
Yeah.
And you can get a lot of texture from the guitar that just sounds like if I just play this chord, it's a little bit of an abstract chord.
Right.
But since the guitar has a special sound to it, it sounds soft and quiet. But if I played that same chord on the piano, or if I voiced that same chord for brass instruments, it might sound abstract. Or like, a really kind of outside the box jazz chord. It sounds mellow when you pair it with the guitar. Again, it's like that bossa nova thing. But if I just played that chord by itself on a different instrument, it might sound irksome.
Right. Okay, now playing Armenian music. I'm just kidding.
Well, I did learn a few songs.
You did. You and I had a chance to play together. Let me pause here for a moment. Seriously, if this is hitting home for you, share this episode with someone else who might need to hear it. And if you have thoughts on this podcast, I would really love to hear from you. These conversations is what makes Michigan such a creative state. And we're better off for it when they continue beyond the podcast. Now back to the episode. So let's switch the pace a little bit, Colton. I'm always intrigued, and when I'm talking to musicians, especially that are full-time musicians, on sort of the juggling act between performing, teaching, because I believe you do some teaching as well, and
Yeah.
you do some studio work and scoring. Like, how do you personally define success at this stage of your career?
Well, that's a hard question.
Yeah, I just gave you a loaded one.
Because the success in this environment, I have to frame it like this. Every time I am able to touch the guitar and make a sound, I just have to be grateful and joyful for that moment, because it may not lead to any kind of financial gain. What I've found, I've been lucky, every time when I kind of let go of those attachments and just enjoy playing the instrument, it seems to open a door for me where I actually do get some paying work.
Well, it's as if people, have always said you should never follow money.
Right.
Follow what you enjoy, and then, hopefully the money will follow. I mean, you're basically saying something similar.
And it's a very difficult industry to have that steady stream of income. So I decided that I needed to have multiple possibilities. So I started singing and really working on my singing. And that was because I worked as a side musician for a lot of singers, and I watched what they did. I watched the songs that they chose and how they interacted with the audience and with the owners. And I realized, this is a communication game. I don't want to say game. That makes it sound like I'm minimizing it. It's a communication skill.
Right.
And then a light bulb went off in my mind, because so many things in life are a communication skill. Writing a musical composition is a form of human communication from one person to an audience. Teaching a class is a form of communication. Giving the information from the lesson plan to the students, that can be successful communication. And then singing, of course, is communication.
Right.
Advertising ultimately is communication, right? We're trying to lead a consumer to a brand. So we're trying to tell the story of the brand. Film music is communication. It's background scoring that helps tell the story. So it's about character arcs and narrative structures. So I think the common thread through all of my work is communication. And
something that AI can't really take away.
Why?
But as maybe a good segue into how has that affected the music business? I mean, we're hearing at times of songs being just invented by AI, or even, voices are AI generated. Is that having a positive or a combative relationship with the music industry, in your opinion?
I think the jury is out on that. I can't make a conclusive answer to that yet. I have some fears about it, because I think it takes away from some of the important time that it takes to develop the skill. And I think our attention is so small nowadays. Our attention is being pushed in so many different directions. And as a creative artist or composer, a singer, a guitar player, it takes a lot of attention and focus to develop the craft. And then we have the technology industry is telling us, well, you don't need all of these skills. We can have these skills for you. So I do have a worry that we're taking the focus away from skill and from craft. But as a practical person trying to still work in this industry, I have had several occasions come up where I used some AI tools, and they were helpful for moving the project forward. And I would probably use them again, because it helps get the job done faster. If a client needs to have a complete redo of a project, but let's say they like the composition, but they want to hear it in another style, well, now they're going to be trained and have the habit of being able to get a new style of the same demo within minutes. So if they bring that expectation to a job, then I have to be able to modify my point of view in order to, get the work done.
Yeah. But I think you said it right. I mean, it can be a tool, but one has to be careful how it's used.
I agree.
And especially for music being a creative point, that creativity could easily go away if it goes too far. But you can't use them, at least on live gigs, right?
Not yet.
Using AI. So
No.
talk about, as we're kind of drawing to the end, talk about some of the gigs and performances. You play quite a bit. I see where you're playing, but talk about maybe some more of the memorable and types of performances you like to give.
Well, I really enjoy live performance, and it's because you can only do it in the moment. That one moment is what counts. It's not about making a recording. It's about connecting with the people that are present in that particular venue at any given time. So I've been really fortunate to play a lot of the venues around Detroit with a lot of great artists. And every time I play, I try to give the audience my best. And it can be, actually, I've learned how it can be calming and soothing to me, to my mind. I used to get stage fright. And I still do. If it's a really high pressure gig, I'll get a little bit of stage fright, and that will keep me on my toes. But I've also learned how to calm myself. And I'm thinking of a couple of particular performances that I think were really good, at least in my memory. I did a New Year's Eve performance at Cliff Bell's in Detroit, and this is going back probably 10 or 15 years. But I remember being able to kind of close my eyes and just listen to the band and listen to my voice through they had good monitor speakers going that night, and the sound was good and the band was warmed up and everything was cooking, and the audience seemed to be like they were on my side. And I felt like, okay, when everything starts to go like that, then it feels like the job of communication. It feels more like you're like levitating a little bit. It's almost like an out-of-body experience. You rise up a little bit higher, and then the band around you rises up a little bit higher, and then the audience gets their energy going. So that would be the one performance that stands out in my memory.
What do you hope people are feeling when they're listening to you play? Even though maybe they can't quite name it, but when they hear you play, what do you hope is going through their mind?
Well, I hope that they're enjoying it. I hope that they feel soothed. And for, that would be like for the casual listener, someone who walks into a place and there's music. I hope that it feels soothing and calming and soulful. And then for people who are maybe doing more deep listening, I hope that they understand that I have like respect for the craft. And, if someone knows about like Pass or some of the great, like Wes Montgomery, some of my influences in jazz guitar, or some of the nylon string players that I admire, classical guitarists like Christopher Parkening and Julian Bream. Maybe they'll hear a tone quality, the way I try to play the instrument, like respectfully to these different traditions. That's maybe an idealistic, because I think a lot of people just come and they just want to be entertained and enjoy some music. And that's great. I'm all about that. But there's a lot to it. And I always try, even if I'm just working as an entertainer, I always try to bring respect for the people that I've learned from and from the band members and for the audience, because there's a lot that goes into music behind the scenes, a lot of heartache and pain and suffering. Right. And when you finally get on the stage, you want to bring out the things that elevate people and help them experience a positive situation. So I try to acknowledge all of that when I play the instrument.
Well, I think that's perfect. So as we close out, because we're running out of time, will you play a little bit for us so that our listeners can hear the stylings of Colton Weatherston? I'm waiting for the last note to reverb go away. Fantastic.
Oh,
thank you, Colton. Thank you for taking time to chat today. We could talk longer. There's so much to go through, but we hope that folks that listen today will find and see you around Detroit or Michigan and have a chance to hear you play. So thanks for taking time to chat with me. Yeah,
thank you, Ara.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Michigan Creates. We hope you've had fun diving into the creativity of our state. From Motown melodies to artisanal wonders, Michigan never fails to dazzle. But hey, the creativity doesn't stop here. Connect with us online, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new episodes. Help us spread the word and also share your own artistic stories. So until next time, I'm Ara Tapuzian, and I want you to keep those musical instruments in tune, keep those paintbrushes moving, and keep those cameras rolling. Remember, in Michigan, the only limit is your imagination. Stay creative.